We'll get into the ins and outs of Triller and their card and their product a little bit later on. Let's just start off with the fight itself because it wasn't very long. Ben Askren gets knocked out in the first round. It's he didn't really get off much offense. I think I saw like him hit one shot. I didn't catch the I haven't gone into this show with the CompuBox numbers or anything like that. But looked like he hit him like one shot awkwardly coming in. There was a little bit of entanglement. Ben Askren, by the way, coming into this this fight looking extra sloppy. He's a 170 fighter his career, and he came into this 191, so didn't, I'm sure, cut any weight. Did the thing where he trained with Freddie Roach, all that type of stuff. And Jake Paul, look, young man, looks in phenomenal shape, is training at a nice gym down in Miami, body and soul, with a good trainer, BJ Flores. And, we have seen him when he gets in there with people who don't box, he's got seemingly power to knock people out. We see what he did to Nate Robinson, who is not a boxer. He knocked him dead. I was at his first fight, Andy Easton Gibb. Saw him stop him. That guy did also not box. And now he's taking on a guy in Ben Askren, who has been in the octagon with some dangerous people. This guy is a multiple promotional champion, but he can't take him down. He cannot smother him. He just has to use his hands. And if you've seen Ben Askren in the Damian Maia fight, that's not something he's fantastic with. So, Jake got him out of there in a round like he said he would. He hit him with a 1-2, big right hand. Ben went flying, hit the canvas hard, ended up popping up, beat the count of 8. Referee decides to wave it off and stop the fight. That's all she wrote. So Jake Paul's celebrating. He's going off. He's drinking with Snoop. Ben Askren whisks away. He is out. He is not there to be seen. He is gone. I think somebody said that he made $500,000 base salary for this, plus he got some pay-per-view. So he's going to make a pretty penny for it. And people are pissed. People are pissed. People are pissed about last night because they think that it's a work. They think that it's a setup. They think it's all fake. They think that Ben took a phantom punch. I'll say by the replays, it looked like Ben Askren took a real punch. It looked like he took a big bomb right hand straight. It was a good look. It was a good punch. It was a straight one right down the pipe, right on his temple, and he went down in a heap. He's a guy who's been dropped on his head by Robbie Lawler. Could they let him continue? Could the stoppage have? This was a funny one, but people were like, "Well, what about the stoppage? Was the stoppage early?" First of all, just listen to yourselves. What does Ben Askren have to? What does Ben Askren have to come back from in this fight to beat Jake Paul? Like he has to go through the chance of actually being concussed, weather the courage to go and beat Jake Paul. It's essentially a retirement fight for him in a sport he doesn't compete in. So I found that hilarious. People want Jake Paul to lose so much they want Ben Askren theoretically to get off the canvas like he's Rocky Balboa to come back and beat Jake Paul because they hate him so much. Which is part of the funny thing with this is that, and one of the funny things I did find fascinating talking to Jake Paul is that I just can't believe that people fall for this. It was the same thing with Floyd back in the day. I don't even really want to put them in the same sentence, but like how many times Floyd could dupe people into watching him thinking he was going to lose. And this on a much more I was about to curse, a much more terrible scale is the same essential thing. You have a guy, a villain, an internet troll who is, in this boxing role. He looks like he's got some skills against people who don't seem to be up to snuff with him. And, he's dealt with some opponents in pretty spectacular fashion. Because look, we watched a guy like the Frank Mir fight earlier. Frank Mir's this guy's a trade killer. Now, granted, he was taking on a professional boxer, Steve Cunningham, but it was a boring fight. It wasn't very good. And for whatever you want to say, Jake Paul has turned he has turned each one of his fights into a highlight-worthy Twitter viral moment, not just, I stopped a guy or I beat a guy. So he has that going for him. So the idea, okay, was it a fix? People were, this was a setup, Tobin. People were so mad. I'm like, maybe it was a setup, but if it was a setup, had he played a Ben Askren, because he was literally done fighting. He was done fighting. He was off of hip surgery. He's fat, and he's already suffered probably the most notorious knockout in mixed martial arts history. Like, who doesn't know the Ben Askren 5-second knockout from Jorge Masvidal? Who doesn't know that? So if you've already had one of the most notorious and embarrassing knockouts, 5 seconds, in the history of mixed martial arts, what does it matter if you lose to Jake Paul in reality? It's a bad look for the sport of mixed martial arts, for sure. But for him, if he's, first of all, he's a guy who's, makes fun of himself, pretty comfortable in his own skin. And if he got fairly rich off of this, which $500,000 more than he's made in his mixed martial arts career, plus pay-per-view revenue. I don't think Ben Askren's ever been the headliner of a pay-per-view. So all that being said is if it was a setup, had he played by Ben Askren to make it happen? I don't think it was necessarily a setup as far as like do I think Ben Askren legitimately went in there and took a dive? No, I think he got hit in the head really hard. He's not very good at punching. He's old. He's fat. And what does he need to fight through it for? Was the referee quick to stop it? Yeah. But again, what is he fighting for? Is he fighting for those terrible Triller belts? Those things are awful, by the way. Triller, if you're going to continue this stuff and you're going to have, if you're going to spend the budget on a gazillion musical artists, do yourself a favor. Invest I don't know how much belts cost. Let's say $1,000 each. Can we invest $3,000 in 3 nice belts and not things that you look like you sewed in home ec class? Those were terrible. So yeah, I will tell you this. Think what you want about the Jake Paul, Ben Askren thing, unless you are just like, you were really hoping that Ben Askren was going to defend the honor of mixed martial arts tonight, which I certainly don't think. Like, you think that mixed martial arts is greatly stained today? Like, you think that, it stained who in the eyes of combat fans? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, less people are going to tune into Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman next week because of what happened today? I highly doubt that. But in reality, the better play here is, Jake Paul wins and then theoretically goes and fights somebody harder. And if you hate Jake Paul, he certainly isn't going to suffer the worst punishment from Nate Robinson, Gibb, or Ben Askren. He is eventually going to get into a place where he probably bites off way more than he can chew. Somebody who legitimately can punch back at him. So, good punch by Jake Paul. I believe it to be a legit punch. I believe the referee did stop it quickly. I don't care that he did, because it's a fight between a YouTuber and a fat, retired mixed martial artist who was the worst puncher we've ever seen. So, I didn't really need to see Ben Askren muster up his Rocky IV to keep this going. As far as this is concerned, I don't know where he goes from here. I don't know what the next fight is. I don't know if it's KSI. I don't think it's Conor McGregor. I don't really think it should be Dylan Dennis, because it feels like the same story rinsed repeated. I know Scott Coker was a little bit coy afterwards on Twitter. He put a crystal ball or something like that. But we did see afterwards, in post-fight reaction, Ben did say, hey, he's embarrassed that he lost to Jake Paul. He got knocked out by Jake Paul. But he's getting $1 million, according to him. So, if you're going to retire off and go into the sunset, and you've already been the source of every internet meme there is, not a bad way to go out. Not a bad way to go out. And for Jake Paul, he gets to continue this game for a little bit more, man, and continue to dupe people because, like I said, these knockouts are going to look good. They're going to look good on the next Triller package or Twitter highlights or his YouTube page or wherever. He sent him flying, and he just like he face planted Nate Robinson. Like these have been highlight worthy knockouts, even if they are coming against guys who don't fight. So anyway, before we get on to UFC stuff, as far as the Triller, I'm very curious to see what the future of this platform is because I've tuned into both freak shows between this and the last one. The next one is going to be Kambosos versus Teofimo Lopez down here in Miami. I'm hoping I can go. I'm going to try and make that happen. But as far as like the production, you tune in at 9:00, you were legitimately watching musical acts up until like 10:45. It felt like when the Frank Mir Steve Cunningham fight was. That really was the memorable fight. What was memorable was Oscar De La Hoya high off his rocker. I mean, he was like the Dolphins' offensive line coach. He was snowblowed. It was I can't even do it justice. Go search it on Twitter. Some of the stuff Oscar De La Hoya was just throwing out there. He was high as a kite. In the co-main event, you had Regis Prograis. He got screwed out of a stoppage because he was about to win, and there was this. It ended up going to he hit Ivan Redkach in the hip essentially, but Redkach was acting like he blasted him in the privates and was just like rolling and writhing in pain, and they eventually had to stretcher him out, but they keep going to the replay, and he didn't even take a body shot. It was literally like a shot on his hip. More like his forearm glanced him. It was very, very strange. Very strange. And that was that, man. That was kind of the night of fights. The night of fights was not great. Snoop was hilarious again. He's really good on these calls. Too many people, I would say. Stop wasting Al Bernstein's time. You clearly don't, need his credibility there. He's getting high. Play-by-play guy was a little bit corny. Just let Snoop. Hey, let's just. I think his name's Ray Flores. Right, just let Snoop do his thing, bro. All right, Snoop's the star of the show. There, let him do his thing. Let a peacock fly. And Pete Davidson, I thought was kind of funny in the lead up to it. He was like very weird in the. I won't say what his lines were in the actual fight. And then Mario Lopez was another one. Mario Lopez that like kept trying to like keep boxing on track. Bah. No point. I just saw the ringside shot of. I gotta tell you something, man. Ben Askren took a real ass shot. I'm not gonna sit here and say people. I'm not gonna let people sit here and say that Ben Askren took a dive. I don't think Ben Askren was in phenomenal shape for this fight by any means. And by the way, he's also not a good puncher, as we saw from the workout videos. But that was a big shot that he took, man. He hit him really, really hard, and he landed on the canvas really, really hard. Honestly, I'm surprised he got up. Which if it wasn't that you were losing to a YouTuber, you could probably say, hey, props to Jake Paul props to Ben Askren for taking that shot. So, there's that. Let me get to this point. So, Triller had a big announcement this week. They announced the George Kambosos Teofimo Lopez lightweight championship of the world. Going to be down here in Miami. It was interesting. I heard Peter Kahn, he's our guy, and I heard him in an interview with Chris Mannix, and Peter had said that this is going to be a closed set, kind of like they had some VIP guests there. You could definitely see during the fights, but I don't think the musical acts weren't shot. Like it's not like Doja Cat and Justin Bieber performing on the same night. That was clearly all pre-recorded. I'm sure they were there on fight night, but they weren't performing on fight night. So I think it's going to be that way for the Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez card. I wonder if they're going to go because this is supposed to be their one or first real dive into, hey, we have a real main event here, a real boxing event, and is one of the reasons they hired Peter as their head of boxing. So I wonder if they're going to take the same approach going into that fight. I thought they did a great job promoting those guys, put them on the desk with everybody, and I think that's going to be a fun fight build up too. I think people will get a sense of George. We've had George on the show a few times, and he's charismatic. He don't play. He's a very serious dude, very intense, and I think that I think he's going to be able to match wits with Teofimo, who's good at trash talk in his own right, and it'll be different than the Lomachenko lead up. The Lomachenko lead was personal, but it's Lomachenko. Like he's kind of cool. He's mild mannered. He's Lomachenko, So I think this is going to be a cool variance in the lead up to this fight. But I'm curious to see how they do it. Please don't bring those terrible belts, Peter. If we could have a talk, don't bring those terrible belts. You guys got to do something better than that. And then I wonder if it's so much music or if there's going to be some boxing. Look, I don't think people are missing out on so much boxing. I know how these big events work. Like you're there to see the main event. So it's not that like some of it was ridiculous though. Like it's not just that there was music that made it crazy. It was it was Oscar De La Hoya high as a kite. It was Ric Flair was there judging a slap contest with Pete Davidson. I mean, it was a wild night. And look, to their credit, I had UFC on the other television and I didn't really turn off Triller. I was intrigued because I kind of wanted to watch the train wreck. And that's the other thing is everybody's just like, this is a train wreck. This is a joke. It's like, yeah, you're watching a Ben Askren, Jake Paul card. My guy, like, what do you think it's gonna be? You think this is gonna be Miguel Cotto versus Manny Pacquiao? No, it's supposed to be a freak show, and people get crazy. People get so mad. Like the things that I see, I could chalk it up every single fight night. This is fake. Boxing's dead. MMA community should be embarrassed. It's just like the one thing with fights, they're one-offs, man. And, whether it's a bad scorecard night, that won't ruin the sport. Whether it's, a bad call by a referee, it won't ruin the sport. It's just like you're so invested that one night, and especially the mainstream eyes, which only kind of come in to the fold every once in a while, that when something does go wrong or something is controversial or on the fray, everybody feels like it's going to be the one sweeping thing over the sport. And it's just not.